Now, more bad news for Joe Biden tonight. A new poll from Fox Business found that a whopping 7 in 10 Americans think 2021 was a bad year for the country. And it doesn't stop there. According to a new poll from the Morning Consult, just 10% of voters say Democratic accomplishments more than they expected. Surging inflation, rising energy costs with no end in sight is a stark reminder of the failure of Joe Biden's and the failure of the Democratic agenda. And get this, according to a new CNN poll, Biden's economic numbers have cratered to a point even lower than Jimmy Carter, exposing just how much Americans are losing confidence in the Biden presidency. Here now with reaction, Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. Senator, thanks so much for joining us tonight. I think a lot of voters are starting to have buyer's remorse because they see that Joe doesn't only not have the stamina, but everything that he promised as far as being a moderate, he straight up lied to the American people, and now he wants to blame your colleague, Joe Manchin.
Well, hello, Lawrence, and Merry Christmas. Let me first start off by saying it's so refreshing to hear Dr. Ben Carson, coming out and speaking out and being a voice of reason. We need one when it comes to COVID.
I agree.
But to answer your question, Democrat governance, the Biden administration has been a disaster for America. Started immediately when he canceled the Keystone XL pipeline. That certainly contributed to rising gas prices. He opened the borders, so we had this record surge of illegal immigration, the embarrassing and dangerous surrender in Afghanistan. And then, their only solution is spending more money, and that's a double whammy. Not only do you create way more dollars chasing too few goods, so that's the definition of inflation, but you're spending those dollars to make it possible for people not to reengage in the workforce. So you don't have manufacturers who can hire enough people, so that also exacerbates the supply of goods. So the policies of the Democrats, this is what we are seeing the results of. But is their policy? It's accurate to call the Biden administration incompetent, but that's way too kind. These are their policies. The results of their policies were obvious from the start, and now Americans are waking up to it.
Yeah, they are. I want to take you to your colleague, Joe Manchin. You know him. What was going on behind the scenes? Because it seemed like to me that he was very transparent on where he stood on this piece of legislation. He thought it was way too much spending. He communicated that to the White House. He communicated that to the American public. But it seems like the Biden administration weren't willing to compromise on the issue. And when he said he was done, they decided to have his staffers go out there and leak and smear this man.
Yeah, it sounded to me like he laid out in very great detail what he'd accept. And the Biden administration and Democrats in Congress just simply figured they could just pressure him into rolling and just accepting whatever they tried to shove down his throat. And then, of course, they developed a plan of incredibly dishonest scoring something that really is about $5 trillion in spending, to score that at $1.75 trillion. And when the CBO score came out, Joe Manchin said, I just can't buy this. Plus, he was highly concerned about inflation, as we all should be. A 6.8% consumer price index over the last 12 months, 9.75% producer price index. This is a disaster for the very people Democrats purport to represent: seniors on fixed income and people at the lower end of our income spectrum. Inflation hurts them the most. Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos, they're not going to be harmed by inflation. They're rolling in the dough based on these COVID shutdowns. It's the poor people, it's the elderly that are really hurt by inflation. Again, inflation caused by Democrat policies.
Senator, I got to ask you because, it seems like the Republicans are going to take back the House. You got a possibility of taking back the Senate. So when you get the power back in your hand, what are you going to do for the American people? Because they don't want any of this squishy nonsense. They want people that are going to be strong for an America First agenda. What's the agenda for you guys if y'all take back the House?
Well, I think we should, continue with the successful Trump agenda. Reduce regulation, make sure that we maintain a competitive tax system, and by and large, stay off the backs of the American public. Let them live their lives. Let them build their businesses. Let them produce products and services that we all value, and try and get the federal government out of their lives as much as possible. It's successful. That's what works. That's what made America great. Our freedom, our ability to dream, aspire, build, and create, not big government.
You know, it's a simple formula, Senator. Let's just hope your colleagues follow it. Thank you so much for joining us on Hannity tonight.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.